Hello, and welcome back to Figuring It Out with Grace and Kaylee. Today we are figuring it out. David motherfucking Mora.
In the house.
We're figuring you out, Dave. We're
We're
figuring
figuring you out. No, we are so happy to have our precious Dave on here with us. He has, wow, been through it. We've been through a lot together, David. And he is on here to share topics on recovery, addiction, veganism, and just all over health and mindset and how we can get to glow up like David Mora.
Thank you for joining, Dave. We really appreciate having you here and for sharing part of your story with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here.
We want to give our audience just a little intro of how we know you and about our relationship. And then we want to dive deep into you if you're so comfortable with it. So I actually met Dave from Kaylee. Kaylee and David have been friends. I guess you guys can describe your friendship as best friendship or like whatever you want to call it. So Kaylee and I have obviously been best friends for a majority of our lives. And then Kaylee brought in David and like they were best friends. And it's incredibly uncomfortable when your best friend gets a new best friend. And that's really what happened here. So David kind of became like a frenemy. And we didn't not like each other, but we weren't like the best of buds. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say it was like low key. Like Kaylee'd be like, "Oh, Grace is blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool! I can't wait to meet her." And,
Yeah.
and take her down. I'm just
Exactly. Exactly. And it wasn't until our dear friend Kaylee got married, and then David and I were able to have a common enemy, and I won't share the details of that story for the internet, that we really, really started to click, I feel like.
yeah, absolutely.
So I would say, Kaylee, did you want to touch on your friendship as I
Yeah,
hear the
so
story?
I first remember meeting Dave. We both worked for the same car dealership and we had orientation on the same day. And I still remember like walking into the room and your face was just lit up and you're smiling and you shook my hand. And I in my head, I was like, this is my new bestie. And I was so happy because it was like a big corporation. So there were different locations, and I was so happy to know that he was with me at the same location. And we just became quick friends and we made fun of everyone and we made everyone do like sing happy birthday, all the guys. It was like a major, like a dude fucking.
And it was like a bunch of like they were all pretty like older than us too,
Yeah.
because we were in our prime 20s, and yeah,
We got
we
into
would
a
just like
lot of,
force them to be young with us.
we did. And
Yeah.
we would drain our bank account with these banana shots we would take at this like local dive bar.
That sounds
Kaylee, do
disgusting.
you I was literally thinking about this the other day. Remember when we were at that club, meeting
Oh my
that guy? and and I checked my bank account. They had like $4 shots. I checked my bank account. I had like 650, and you had like $7. And you're like, yeah, I have money for another shot. And we like didn't get paid for like another week. We like literally, and then we got another shot.
God. We did it. And that was our life
We
for a little bit.
Let me preface that by that was your young 20s of which that took place. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Kaylee. I think David, your light and your charisma is incredibly attractive and appealing to people, and that's remained consistent. So I'm just curious if you could share maybe like a little brief background of your history or how you became you.
Yeah, for sure. And right back at you guys. Good energy attracts good energy, you know? But so I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm not even from Texas. I came out here when I was 24 to try to get sober. And I had lived in Texas like on and off. It was like my safe haven to like try to like, okay, I'm burning everything down in Arizona. Let me go to Texas to try to make it better. And so I came out here for the final time when I was 24. But yeah, I grew up in Phoenix. I grew up with 6 siblings and a single mom. My dad went to prison when I was like 7 or 8. And so my mom raised us by herself, strong woman. And and yeah, so like childhood was cool, you know, it was very like struggle oriented just because it's like when you're one of 7, you know, you kind of have to like start working and figuring everything out. No pun intended. You kind of have to start figuring stuff out on your own. So it made me like very independent at like a young age. And also kind of in like a negative sense kind of taught me to only rely on myself, you know, and like not really ask for help or, you know, be open to like sharing your struggles. It was just like white knuckle it, like, you know, strong through it until you figure it out for yourself. So yeah, but childhood it was weird. There was like really great times, you know, and like growing up with that many siblings is a lot of fun. But there was also a lot of, you know, struggle and stuff like that as well. So
Sure. I'm curious as to why you chose Texas of all places as like a safe haven for you to go to when you felt like you were burning it down to the ground.
yeah, I had sisters out here.
Okay.
So yeah, my oldest sister married a guy who was like in the military, and so he was stationed in San Antonio, and then they had a child, so she was in Texas for like 18 years at least, you know. So she's been out here for a while. A couple of my other sisters followed her out here, so I had like I would just call them and be like, hey, like I'm high, I need help. And they're like, all right, come out here. And then I would live with one of them until I decided to get my own place and burn that down. So,
Love it.
So you said you were 24,
uh-huh.
24 whenever you felt like you needed to get sober. Is that when you got sober for the first time?
No, I didn't get sober for the first time. I don't know the exact age. I think I was like 28 or 29, and I had gotten sober for like 7 months. I started smoking weed after 7 months and then started drinking after a year because I just like was really uninformed about like addiction or recovery or anything like that. Like I was like, oh, I stopped drinking for a year. Like I'm obviously not an alcoholic. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna try moderating my drinking, you know? And so knowing what I know now, even after a year, I'm like, hell no, it's going to end terribly, you know. But back then, like I didn't really know anything about addiction and like I didn't identify as an addict. I didn't know that I had a problem with these things. Again, it was kind of like that mindset that it's like I got myself sober this first time, I killed it, and I've got this shit. If I need to get myself sober again, I can do it. This last time I was like not able to do it.
So
But
what is it that you know now that you would have like told your past self who like started smoking after 7 months?
yeah, so I like what I know now is that like is my pattern. And so it like always the reason why I moved to Texas when I was 24, back up just a smidge, is I was like doing like ecstasy and Molly and acid and all those like fun party drugs. I was doing them way more abnormally than my friends were doing them. They would take like one and I would take like seven, you know, and so that was
Why?
kind of huh?
Why? Was it because you were just like craving more of a numb an experience? Like, have you thought about the why you were doing it? And then did you realize like in the moment that you were going overboard and compared to your friends?
So the why behind it is something that I do know now is that it's like once I put something in my body, I just want more and more and more.
Got it.
The same with alcohol. I would always say like I'll go out drinking with my friends and then I would go home and finish getting drunk, you know, and I would just like drink until I blacked out. And so the reason why is just because I like wanted more and more and more. Like it was just never enough. Even if I was like having a seizure on the floor of a rave, I was still like, I need more, you know? So there's just like no limit. And it's not even that like I was trying to get more high. It was just like the feeling is so great, like I don't want it to go away. And then I cannot stop, you know? And that's actually one of the identifiers for me as an addict. So no, what was the other part of that question, Grace? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You answered that question, I guess. And I'm gonna
Cool.
follow up is, do you feel like so I think of that time of my life, like early 20s, and that was normal in my opinion. My environment was to be around a lot of people that were getting blackout wasted, myself included, and recreational drugs, and maybe not to the extent that you were using them, but it didn't feel normal. I mean, not normal. So in that time, was your headspace like, did you have the recognition or the wherewithal to be like, this isn't normal? Or did you feel like you were just like keeping up with everyone else?
I I don't think that, so I was like clueless for a very long time. And so it's hard to like, I wasn't aware of like my addiction. My friends would all tell me though, like, yo, you're taking way too many, and like I would be going into like psychosis at a rave and like thinking I was trapped in there and like all of this like really, really weird stuff. And it was like my friends, for instance, they would take like a Molly and then they'd be like, oh, let's take another Molly, but I'm already on like my fifth one. I bought like 20 mollies to like sell at this music festival and just take a few for myself. I ended up taking all 20 in like a 2 day span, so it was like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't on the level of my other friends. And like going to music festivals and raves, it was kind of like a space where I was like, oh, I can get fucked up here. Kind of like that mindset. Like, everyone's getting all messed up. Like, I can do that too. But like I said, like once I put it on my body, I'm like, I never want this to go away. Like, I would be permanently like this if I could. And so it was just like, take more and more and more and more until I overdid it. And I was like in panic and I had anxiety and like I was tripping out, like it was just, it would get weird.
When you woke up the next day from an experience like that, because to me that sounds absolutely fucking terrifying. And also shame on you for not making any profit off that Molly, David. When you woke up the next morning, how would you feel, or like what would go through your head if you could recall?
Um, I think I would, like I would, first of all, I wouldn't sleep that night. But like once like the smoke like blowed over, I mean, I would just think about when I was going to do it again, like, and like I said, people are rolling and stuff like that. And at a music festival, you have like the people that are like rolling and having fun, and then the people that are like rolling and like grinding their teeth and all of that stuff. Like, that was me. So it's like, yeah, like I would just think like, when am I going to get to go to that safe space again and use as much as I want,
Numb out.
But friends started leaving me too. Like, friends started being like, yo, it's so annoying to go out with you, like, one time we were at this music festival, and this was back in the day, like, you did not have service like at all. I know like some of the music festivals now, they set up like phone towers and things like that, but like at this one you had no service. So my friends were like, hey, let's make a plan to meet back at the car at like 3 a.m. or something like that. And I ended up getting, that was one of the nights where I took like the 20 pills. And I ended up not getting back to the car till 5 in the morning. My friends were like pissed. They were like, we're so tired. This is like the last day. Like, we want to go back to our hotel. And they were like really mad at me. So like people were starting to be like, yo, this is not cool. Like,
Yeah.
And so that's when I would be like, damn, I've got to leave these friends, and I'm serious. It was like, it was sick. It was really, really sick. I'm friends with them again now, but yeah, that was my MO. It's like, cool, burned it down.
Yeah.
Let's find a new niche.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't touch on this, which I'm going to do a new intro because I think this is important to note that you now work at a recovery, what would you call it? Recovery facility?
Yeah, like a treatment, like a substance abuse
Recovery.
treatment facility.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So what, from that side, how do you define like addiction?
So a few ways that I define addiction is like, once you put it in your body, you can't stop. There's like no limit to how much you can do. The second part is like they call it the obsession of the mind. This is all like cycle of addiction. And so the second part is that it's like my mind, even though I know how terrible it is for me, still tells me that it's a good idea. Like and like that'll fester in my mind. And even when I first got sober, I was like, I want to do drugs. Like I want to, like it never really goes away. And it's just this like thing in my mind that tells me time and time again that like it's going to be different. I can use like a normal person, even though I've proven that I can't. Also, part of the obsession of the mind is just like once I try to stop, like I can't stay stopped. So like a normal person can say like, oh, I'm not going to drink for a week, or a person can say like, I'm going to go out and have 2 drinks and then go back home. Like I can't stay stopped when I want to. And then the third part is just like, this is kind of getting into like AA territory, but it's just like they call it the spiritual malady. And it's just like, you've had these symptoms since you were younger, like just like this trauma and like this like feeling of hopelessness and despair and like just a disconnection spiritually. And that disconnection is why you seek out other modes to feel connected or feel better. And then it just starts that whole cycle over again.
Okay. Man. Okay. And then I also wanted you, if you could share, like, you don't have to go into the details, but the moment when you went to rehab this last time and you've completely changed your life, and I've seen it, and not to make this about me, but I had no idea. Like, just for our listeners to know, David's my best friend and he's been my best friend since we met. And I had no idea. And I woke up to a text that he was in treatment, and like I had to feel, like work through my feelings of like just having the guilt of like, God, one of your best friends is going through something and you had no idea. So like that was just from an outside perspective of like, even, some of the closest people to you don't know the struggle you're going through. But just like in that moment, what was the life change? Like, what was the moment of like, fuck this, I'm getting clean?
So to also touch on like that, like I take full responsibility of that because I was such like a liar, like living a double life, and so it's like the way that I managed the pieces were like so strategic, like I would call out of work, I would say I was taking Adderall, I, would like I said, I would go out drinking with everyone and everything would seem fine. And then I would go home, get blackout drunk, and then the next morning just like punch through it and just pretend everything was okay, so it's like I always tell people like that's not on them that they didn't know, like I was just really good at hiding it, and that's like completely on me. And something that I had to own up to too, that is just like I was so fake, and I was just like not truthful. But again, it was like that kind of like, don't let anybody see you weak, like don't let anybody see you struggle.
Yeah, I also don't even really see it as fake. I see it as you were hiding your demons, like we all do, we're all and we're all learning to not do that. But I don't think you were I don't see it as you were dishonest with me. I see it as you were struggling. And yeah, it's, it's sad to think back at that, but like,
well, it's human nature to hide what you're shameful of.
Exactly.
That's
And
what they
so
talk about.
I never see it like you were, I never see it like you were dishonest. I just know you were going through a lot.
Yeah. I love using the word fake, by the way. I just think
A fake ass bitch.
like,
well, it's appropriate now, just considering how authentic you show up to everything you do and every relationship you have. So I guess it's like a fun way to view your transformation as like, I went from Ken doll and now I'm David. You're still hot, Ken, but you're you.
Absolutely.
So, okay, give me the moment of, the pivotal life change moment, if you can recall back to that.
Yeah. So that's where it was kind of like a spiritual experience for me. And like, I'm a very spiritual person and I love that side of me, but like, I really didn't have like any control over that. So I was actually like in a meth psychosis, just like in my apartment, hadn't slept in like 3 days, had like 4 random TV mounts that I was never hanging. Like it was just like chaos in my apartment and I was terrified. And I just like had this feeling that it was like if I don't call somebody right now, it was almost like a God feeling, where it was like I have to call someone. And I was like warring within myself, where I was just like, don't do it, do it, don't do it, do it. And finally, I was just like, I have to call somebody or I'm going to die, And I ended up calling Stephanie and she was like, I'll be there in 10 minutes, And then Bethany came shortly after. And Stephanie was like, and I was so terrified that I was like, you can't come over here. Like, it's dangerous and like there's people outside. And she was just like, what are you talking about?
These are
And
his
she was,
sisters. These are his
uh,
sisters. I was just telling the peeps that those are his your sisters
yes.
that live next to you. Okay.
Yeah, and so they came over and they were just like, hey, like, like let's go take a walk outside. And we walked outside. I smoked cigarettes at that time. So I smoked a cigarette and I was just like so darty and just like, out of it. And Stephanie was like, hey, I think you should really consider rehab. And at that point, I was just like, whatever you say, and she was like, the financial part of it, like, we've got you, which is like, I'm so fortunate because a lot of people don't have that support, but she was just like, don't worry about a thing. But again, like I'm so high that I'm like not processing everything. And so she ends up like calling my ex-brother-in-law, my nephew's dad. He gets us in touch with somebody from Recovery Unplugged. He gets Stephanie in touch with somebody from Recovery Unplugged. I was in bed sleeping while she was cleaning my apartment and trying to figure this all out. Gets me in touch with someone from Recovery Unplugged. They get the financial stuff worked out. And then she's like, you're going to treatment. I woke up the next day at 30 years old and I was like, what the hell did I just do? Like I didn't have any intention on getting sober. I was like, you just like literally showed everyone your ugly side. You're an idiot, And so it's like, it wasn't really like a choice that I had made. It was just kind of like saying yes along the path. And I ended up like in the most perfect treatment center that was perfect for me and my family completely supported me. But I didn't decide to get completely sober till about 2 weeks into treatment. I still thought that I was going to be able to drink because drinking was more manageable, but I was just like, I can't do meth anymore. That's where I like spin out.
Were you planning on like hiding that from them, or did you think like, no, I can
think
drink?
I thought they would be cool with it. Like society accepts alcohol. Yeah. But like when you tell them you're doing meth or heroin, they're like, you should probably stop, But with alcohol, like nobody really tells you to stop, And so that was kind of like I said, it took me about 2 weeks to identify my pattern and be like, oh, it starts with alcohol, and I have a really unhealthy relationship with alcohol as well. But I never thought I had a problem because I had gotten myself sober, and then I would be able to get like 2 days sober. And I was like, oh, like alcoholics can't do that. I was like, I don't drink in the morning. I took a quiz, like, are you an alcoholic quiz? And I lied on it, to make it, I'm telling you, it's insanity.
I was going to say, like, if you're taking a quiz of am I an alcoholic, you probably, the bet is yes.
Absolutely.
Just like have it there and then you start taking it and it just says yes.
No it was like, you're just a heavy drinker. Keep going, girl.
So that was kind of falls into my question. Do you think that people have a general misunderstanding of what addiction is? As in, do you believe that you meet a lot of people that are struggling with their relationships with substances, specifically alcohol, as you mentioned, because it's like wildly accepted in society, but like believe that their behavior is normal?
I think, that's a tough question. So it's like, yeah, it is accepted in society. And so it does make it harder. Like for alcoholics, like I said, there's more people saying stop doing meth than stop doing alcohol. And so for alcoholics, I do feel like it's kind of harder because it is so accepted and it's like everywhere. But I definitely think there are people out there like me, for instance, that just like don't know that they have a problem because either like, they don't drink in the morning or they don't drink at work or, things like that. And that's where I kind of, when I work with somebody, when I like sponsor somebody or try to like help them to see their addiction, I always tell them like, hey, it's when you put it in your body, can you not stop? Do you have the obsession of the mind? Have you tried to stop before and you can't? And things like that. And I help them try to identify it. But there's definitely people out there who don't know that they have a problem. Um,
So 2 weeks
yeah.
into your recovery experience, what do you think made this recovery center perfect for you and different for you? And what was that trigger 2 weeks in that you decided like, oh shit, no, I can't drink. It's going to be a no for me.
Yeah. So what made Recovery Unplugged perfect is like when I was sitting there, like the people there were so loving and like just being in a community and for the first time, like vocalizing what I was going through. And a lot of the times, like there's these things called shadow people. And it's when you're like 3 days sleep deprived, just like getting high in your apartment and you start seeing like shadows out of your peripherals and you like think they're people. And that's why like when I would think about it, I thought I was like insane, but going there and they're like, oh yeah, that's everyone experiences that. You should, that's just a symptom. So like getting to like talk about the struggles and like the experience and like getting it off my chest was really, really helpful. And I also like made a pledge that I was like, I am not going to be dishonest anymore. And so it was just like I was like an open book. Also the musical aspect of it, like I hadn't sang sober or like they had like a band come in. They would have like open mics where you could like showcase something like an open mic situation on like a therapeutic level, and it was just like really awesome to like get to work with a therapist and just like people showing you how possible sobriety is because most of the employees are in recovery, so it was just like seeing all these people that were like so cool and I was like, how are you guys like cool and sober? I don't understand, um, but that's what made it so special for me. And
Go ahead.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I have a problem with interrupting. It's something that I'm working on.
No. And then so 2 weeks in, there was a guy, he's actually like one of my friends now. He was like my boss for a little bit. He moved positions. But he came in and he gave this talk where he was just like, you don't know how like sick you are. You can't even see your problem. Like you want to get out of here. You want to, dictate your treatment. You want to do all this stuff. You have this like grand plan where you think you know better than everyone else here. And it's true. I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna do ayahuasca. I'm gonna drink still. Like you guys don't know what you're talking about. I'm not doing all this AA stuff. Like I'm not doing any of it. And so just that attitude, he was just like, you need to like really see your patterns and you need to see like that, and people helping me understand that addiction is like, it is what it is and it's not what I thought it was. And so yeah, he gave this like really stern speech and I ended up like getting like really emotional and just like it just impacted me and I was like, all right, like I have to do this damn thing or I'm going to be back here. And I had heard so many people too saying like, oh, this is my 9th treatment stay, this is like my 12th treatment stay, and I was like, hell no, I've got a life to live.
Mhm.
And I also think like having those 7 months of sobriety really helped to kind of remember too. It's like, yeah, it was really hard because I was still dealing with a lot of the mental health stuff, but it was like also I was living life, and I didn't have to wake up wanting to die every morning. And um so yeah, so with that speech and then just kind of like slowly, gradually just coming to terms with this like, hey, I'm screwed if I don't get this. And then once I made that decision, I was just like, all right, what do I gotta do? And that's when I turned to all the employees and I was like, I'll do everything you guys tell me to do. And I did. And here I am.
Yeah, it sounds like you just released like well, for one, like ego, but also you like surrendered. Like you just have to, sounds like you just have to like give it up sometimes and just like work the fucking program. if you
Yeah,
want it that bad. You want to
exactly.
feel good. So what made you want to become, a sponsor and help other people struggling with their addictions?
It honestly like gave my life purpose. It was just like it made sense of everything. And it made me like super grateful. And it's like I wouldn't change a single thing from my past. And it like made sense of everything. And I was like, yeah, if I had to deal with all that scary, meth stuff, like it was worth it because it's like now I can like sit with somebody else and be like, hey dude, like I know what you're going through. But without that experience, I wouldn't know what they were going through and I wouldn't find my niche and being able to help people. But it's like all my life I wanted to help people. I just didn't know what it was that I needed to do. And it was finally when I like that's what I'm saying. It's like a spiritual experience. Like everything was just perfectly and like my life is just like, oh, it makes so much sense, and I'm grateful to be where I am and to be but it's just like all along I wanted to help people. So it's like this was just my laid out plan of doing it.
Do you see yourself like staying in this line of work
Yes, yeah,
forever? Yeah,
for sure.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, and I'm a licensed cosmetologist, as you guys know, and um, I love doing hair. Like it's a lot of fun, but like nothing like it didn't light my soul on fire like helping someone else. Like driving to somebody that was like getting high a couple hours away and like bringing them into treatment and like seeing them change their life. Like nothing lit me up like that. And that's when I was like, I need to work in treatment because I want that feeling for the rest of my life. Being able to help people.
That is fucking amazing. Like, I
Yeah.
love hearing your story is like truly inspiring, Dave.
Wow. Thank you.
I'm gonna cry. It's fine.
David, what's your routine like? Like, what are some practices that you've built into your day to day that allow you to remain focused and clear and help other people?
Yeah, so I start every morning with like, prayer, meditation. Um I don't do a to-do list. I'm completely honest. When I first got sober, my schedule was way more solid because I really wanted to solidify everything. So, I mean, it wavers like in and out, sometimes I'll just do a prayer and I'll get out of the house, sometimes I'll have time for a meditation. Um I try to do a to-do list if I've got too much on my plate, and I'll say like, okay, like I need to sit down and just like write out everything I have to do for the day. Um, and then yeah, at night I do like a nightly. I kind of recap where I was not cool during the day, if you will, and make amends where I need to make amends. Pray about the stuff that I'm struggling with and things like that. Um, but when I first got sober, I mean, Grace, firsthand, we swam every day, and I was like, that was a huge part of my recovery was like getting out and, getting active and swimming. And I would go to a meeting like 4 or 5 times a week. Now it's like 1 to 2. Um, but those are just some things that I just make sure that I stay in the thick of recovery because once I start like venturing off with the people doing the stuff I used to do, I'm like, oh, their life seems cool. And it's like, and that's where it's like I have to kind of be careful that I'm not like gravitating towards that energy too much because it's
Mhm.
like it'll shift my mindset quickly, which I've learned as well.
What's something that you like your go-to when you feel like you might want to like pick up a drink?
I say it out loud. I like talk about it. When I first got out of treatment, I was like I like every time that I was like in a meeting, they'd be talking about heroin and like how much they loved it and how amazing it was and all this stuff. And so I would call my sponsor and I'd be like, I want to do heroin. He's like, you've never done heroin. I'm like, I know, it sounds cool.
Let's give it a
Maybe I
fucking
got some more left
go.
in me. Yeah. Yeah. So I would just like tell on myself and he'd be like, dude, that's crazy. Like, don't do that, And I'd be like, all right, cool. So like talking about it just kind of takes the power away from it. I also have like a lot of other coping skills, like going to a meeting, and I started playing guitar, so I'll like pick up the guitar, and that kind of helps sometimes as well. But I don't really. When I first got sober, I had a lot of like, like cravings and like wanting to use. But now it's like it's even if it's just a thought, it's just like, oh, like that seems like it would be fun, But that's just like not my reality. It's not my truth, and it's not how it ends for me. And so it's not really too strong anymore. But when I first got sober, I would just like hit a meeting or talk to the people in my sober living and whatnot.
How long has it been? How long have you been sober?
I just hit 2 years on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Congratulations. You are
thank you.
deserving. I want to know what your best piece of advice would be to someone who is scared or nervous, but feels their truth speaking that they need additional help or that they have unhealthy relationships with substances. What could you say to them?
I would tell them like, first off, not to give up. I mean, I tried to get sober from 24 till 30. Really, I should have been trying to get sober at like 18, but really trying for like 6 years. And so it's like, it takes what it takes. And don't be afraid to ask for help. It's crazy. Once I was just honest about it, how many people were there like willing to help and how much more accepted it was. And if anybody looks down on you because of it or thinks you're crazy, like there's a whole community of people who don't. And then outside of that community, there's a whole community of people that support it. And so it's like you're not alone, even though it seems like, in society, you're not allowed to be an addict. There are definitely people like that, but there are so many more people that aren't.
Can you talk about some of your favorite things to do, just like with friends or around town being sober? Because I feel like a lot of feedback I know with people that struggle to even like cut back or like you hear about sober curiosity or whatever. It's like, people go meet at bars and they, that's kind of how you integrate into society. So I'm curious of like what you do for fun. I mean, I know, but like, will you share with our audience, please?
Yeah. So, I mean, I jam pack my days, as you guys know. And so it's like I've got stuff constantly going on. I really enjoy like, spending time with friends. I love going out to eat. I love playing guitar. I take guitar lessons. I just started singing lessons. I go to like sober skate nights. I go to Zilker. I go to Barton Springs. Like I'm just constantly out doing stuff. And I meet a lot of people that way as well. And like one great way to meet people is I always tell like clients, go on meetup.com and like find somebody doing the same thing that you're doing. Like there's like hiking, people where they're like, we're going hiking, who wants to go? There's like constant meditation, sound bowls, like ecstatic dance, Grace.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk about it real quick? David took me to an ecstatic dance. And if you're not familiar, just fucking Google it. I don't know what to tell you. Other than the fact that we drink some cacao and everyone just vibes with the DJ or the music and they dance. And the first experience I had was so much fun. And it was like a room of 8 people and you close your eyes and you just kind of like vibe. The second experience I had was like a room full of 50 plus, and I wanted to crawl into a hole and like disappear. But it's a very unique experience for sure. I don't know.
That first one though, Grace, when we first went, we were like, at first, everyone's just like,
Oh my God.
and me and you were like, and yeah, they were like doing flips on each other's backs and stuff, and we're like, oh my God, what did we do? What are we doing here? But by the end of it, it was kind of another surrender moment. You just surrender to the experience.
I think so too. And for context to everyone, like I had obviously met David through Kaylee prior to us both being in Austin, but it was kind of surreal for me to move to Austin the same time that you got out of recovery here in Austin. And being able to be in a new place. I say this from selfish experience because in the past, a lot of ways that I've had to meet people is through drinking or like meeting up at bars and doing the whole thing. And I had moved to Austin with the intention, as Kaylee knows, to like change my life a bit too. And it really was just this unique and divine timing of having you in the same place. And we would go swimming almost every day. We would be hiking. It was a lot of time in nature, which is incredibly healing. And it is good for the mind, the body, and the spirit. And to have someone who was also so in tune with spirituality and to talk about meditation. And we went to Qigong together one morning.
7 in the morning.
We would meet up and do morning like ice baths essentially by jumping into
And yoga, y'all did
pool.
yoga.
Just a lot of really healing practices that even as someone without, an addiction, it was honestly just like it and continues to be like a transformation of life for me. And I think that it sounds like even if you're someone listening and you don't have an addiction issue, but just even listening to how you've created this path of healing for yourself and being able to pour that into other people is something that we all need. I mean, Kaylee and I talked about the science behind happiness, and the Dalai fucking Lama, you guys, says
Here it is again.
your purpose and mission in life is to be a part of a community and really help other people. And I think you're a walking, living fucking example of that. And I'll stop my tangent now because I got it off my chest. Speaking of health though, and like doing good things for yourself, why did you decide to become a vegan? Because
this bitch is a
You're
fucking
always-
vegan now. Me and David used to go ham on some chicken wings. Oh no, did he freeze?
Yeah.
Dave.
You're
Check.
frozen and your face
Check.
right now looks like you're upset with what we said.
We
Maybe.
pause and then reopen.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so speaking of the loving of going out to eat, David is a vegan, which is crazy because we used to go ham on some hot wings back in the day.
Ugh.
And we just want to know, so why veganism? What was your, turning point were you sober before and then you went vegan, or were you vegan and then sober?
Yeah, so when I was sober for those like 7 months, that's when I went vegan.
Okay, so why?
Because you put, I remember non-dairy cheese on a pizza at Courtney's one time when we were all there, and it became like a big deal. Like, did you like the non-dairy cheese or not? And I loved it. We ended up eating, no, different story. Continue.
Yeah, I've been vegan for like over 3 years now. And the reason why I did it, so it's kind of a long story that I'll shorten up, but like I was just super into like meditating, and I was like really like on this like journey. That's the same time frame when I did ayahuasca, and I was just like really trying to like figure out my spirituality, and just like I think I turned a blind eye to like eating animals for so long, even though like deep down inside I did not feel like it was right. And I just like look at every living being as like beautiful, and like it was just like it wasn't sitting well with me. And I had watched this TED talk when I was actually drunk one time, and this guy was talking about like the genetic makeup of our bodies and how our intestines are actually designed like an herbivore's, and our teeth are designed for an herbivores. The way that our jaw moves when we chew is like an herbivore. So it's like we're actually supposed to be herbivores, and I don't know how true any of that stuff is, but it definitely like made an impact on me. And so I was like meditating one time, and I also had this friend that was vegan in cosmetology school, and she was just like, yeah, it's not hard at all. And I was already like kind of curious about it and like willing to kind of make that move. And so I was just like meditating, and one day I was like, I'm gonna change my diet. Like I'm just gonna change the way that I eat. And I ended up going vegetarian first, and I was vegetarian for 3 weeks. And then I was just like, I like to make things hard on myself. So I was like, this isn't enough of a sacrifice. Like I'm still eating cheese and cheesecake, and I didn't really know a lot of the information around veganism and like animal cruelty and stuff like that, besides like the basic stuff that like most of us know. And so I didn't watch any documentaries purposely until I was a month into it because I felt like all my friends were like watching a documentary and going vegan for like 2 weeks and
Yeah.
then falling off, and so I didn't want anything to persuade me. And so I stayed vegan for a month and I was like, now let's dive into like the research of it. And then
Mhm.
once I like did the research of like how environmentally it's better, for our bodies, it's better, and just like for the animals. Like the animal cruelty is so sad. So initially that was the reason, but once I realized that it's like, oh, all around it's better to be vegan, I was like, cool, I'll rock with this for the rest of my life. And I've been vegan ever since. I do miss chicken wings though, Kaylee, so freaking much. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, I used to eat chicken wings like 2 times a week. Like I would be at like a fancy steakhouse and I'd be like, chicken wings. I'm getting the chicken wings. I was obsessed with chicken wings. Um, and I think when I worked at a pizzeria when I was like 14, that was my first job, and I would just eat chicken wings all day. And so every kind of flavor, you name it. And so I think that's where I started my love for chicken wings. And I still try to find like mock chicken wings that kind of do the trick. And I get the question a lot too. It's like, well, if you like it so much, like why don't you just like eat? Like if vegans like the taste of meat so much, why don't they just eat meat? And I'm like, because it kills an animal. I loved meat. I loved
Yeah.
the taste of it. I loved everything about it. But it's just like it just didn't line up with the way that I felt inside towards like other living beings.
Yeah.
Plug to my favorite vegan food blogger at No Meat Disco. He makes some bomb ass vegan recipes that are easy to follow and share. So
Yum.
yum, we love yummy food.
We love a
If
yum food.
if you could leave our audience with your favorite book, intention, meditation, or advice in your own words, what would that be?
Um, Speaking of books, do you guys remember when we were in a book club?
Oh yeah, we went.
That
We
was
just
so
saw.
fun.
I know we should redo. We
It
should.
was, you guys, it was so fun until no one read the book. No one wanted to show up to the meeting. No one wanted to fucking do anything. You guys are only remembering the glitz and the glamour. But the truth was, no one fucking came.
Did no one come?
We all dropped off. And then I was asked, like, did anyone read the book? And everyone was like, no.
Yeah, I almost got late fees for that book because it was sitting in my car for so long, and I would check them out at the library, and I almost got a
I
late
love.
fee. Yeah.
Ah,
What was that remember the book that I picked, you guys, and it was so
oh,
bad?
the
That
witch
witch
one.
book?
David picked
Y'all
this
read
like
it though.
500-page witch book that we were all supposed to like love, and it was interesting. It was just like really hard to get through, so that probably was a mood killer for book club as well.
Yeah, it had its peak, and then that was like its low, and then it was just all downhill from there. So
Well, and then unpopular opinion, everyone loves Colleen Hoover, and if I have to fucking hear,
I know. I'm not a fan either.
we end up reading it's the same plot over and over and over again. She picks a heavy hitting topic so people are interested, like domestic violence, and then she makes a love story out of it, and it makes them want to gag every time.
Yeah, I agree.
It's-
It not
yeah,
my
and
vibe.
it's always
I really like
the
anything about murder mystery. So me and Grace start our own book club. Sorry, Dave. We'll call you.
Yeah. Well,
We didn't really start one, but
we've
we
only
both
done one
read,
book.
You guys
what
know
was
how
the-
hard it is to get me to do anything, so I completely understand. Y'all do your thing. I
what
literally
was
have
that
like
one we both
windows.
read?
We
The
read
one
it,
with the
Agatha
light-
Christie, and then there
Yeah,
was
but the other one. I read it and then you read it, and I was like, "Bitch, you need to finish the ending."
The Perfect Marriage,
Oh no.
The Silent Patient.
Yeah, The Silent Patient. That was a good one.
That
You
was
should read that one.
Haley exclusively reads murder mysteries. It's a little terrifying. One time I called Kaylee, you guys,
Only thing I'll finish.
and it was on speaker, and she was like, hold on, I have to pause my show. And they literally, the next sentence that came off on her show was like, and they roasted the woman with a stake through her like a pig. And we were like, what the fuck are you watching? This bitch is in bed, like just straight chilling. I
Yeah.
can't.
I
Yeah.
love a murder
Haley, that's so
mystery.
scary.
Okay, back to the question. What
Okay.
book
Those books scare me.
what would you leave our audience?
So hands down, so I don't really I don't read a ton. I'm more of like a podcast listener in my free time. Also books are like shows to me. I will finish a book in a night and stay up till like 5 in the morning.
Mm.
And so, but the most impactful book, call me childish, but it was the Harry Potter book. I don't think I've ever been so emotionally invested. I cried for like the entire seventh book. I was just like, this is too much for me.
Shit, it's so big though.
I know. I know. And I finished it in like 3 days. I had to put it down multiple times because my sister was like, you're crying hysterically. And I'm like, Dumbledore though, like, you know.
Did you know that they actually sold some rights to HBO and they're going to be making a TV show based off of the books that are supposed to include intensely more detail than the movies because they'll be able to fragment it into shows. So for someone like Kaylee who's like, oh my God, that book is too big. Well, bitch, you're getting a TV show. So
Fuck
Then
yeah.
a whole show. I know. My friend told me about that the other day. I haven't heard
Hell
such great
yeah.
things.
yeah, I'm really
My favorite meditation, though, so I have two people that that are my go-tos. So Sara Blondin, she's on Insight Timer, and her meditations just make you feel so good. Like her voice is like she goes on there and she says, "Hello, dear ones," and it's just like
Aw.
so. It's
Love
like,
that.
all right, it's
Love
a
it.
wrap. I feel peace. I feel at ease. So she's more like motivational, feel good kind of meditation. If I'm trying to dive into like some silent, introspective meditations, I really like David G.
Okay.
And it's David J.I. And he's from California. He's so cool. I follow him on Instagram. And his meditations are really great. I did like the 30-day Deepak Chopra and Oprah challenge. They have like an app, and that was a really good meditation. So those are some of my go-to, but I also really just enjoy like a silent meditation. Because a lot of times too, I get so wrapped up in finding the perfect meditation that I'm just like, what am I after? I don't even know. Like, let's just sit here, And so silent meditation is kind of where I get to like truly connect within. That's why I like David G too, because he'll like walk you through the meditations and then it'll just go silent and he'll give you time to like silent meditate, so he kind of guides you into that as well. But yeah, those are my go-tos.
Oh, thank you for
Okay.
sharing.
Of course.
So if there is someone out there who think they could have an addiction or want to like dig deep into figuring out, sober life, is there like a website, or would you recommend them like DM you or?
Yeah, they can totally DM me. And also, I always tell people like, go to a meeting, like go to an AA meeting. And I know like in the movies it seems so like dumb, but it's like the first time that I went to a meeting, not the first time when I was trying to get sober, because I went to meetings before, I was just like, I want no part of this, I'm gonna go get drunk. But then like when I was getting sober and like hearing people tell my exact story of what I was going through, it just like helped me to see like, okay, they're just like me, and so I would say go to a meeting. I would say start talking to like therapists about it as well, and trying to like let them guide you because they're all connected with things that can help, and they're very aware of addiction issues and things like that. And so, yeah, therapy. If you can't afford therapy, AA is free. And yeah, DM me or just talk to some people that that are sober.
How do you find an AA meeting? You just like Google AA meeting near me?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
There's like there's a website. It's like, I don't know the website, but I think it's like aa.org or something like that. There's also an app that you can get on your phone. It's called Meeting Guide. And you can download that app. It's like a blue circle with a chair on it, and you can look up all the meetings near you. Sometimes if I'm traveling out of state, say that I'm going to like New York, I'll use the Meeting Guide app to plan which meetings I want to go to while I'm there, because I can filter the location and all of that stuff. So I think the app is easier than the website, but yeah, you
Mhm.
can definitely check on the website as well.
Do you have
Okay,
to
awesome.
share at a meeting, or can you just like sit and not talk?
No, you can totally sit and not talk. And
Interesting.
some of the meetings will call on you, which gives me the most anxiety because I'm just like, is it gonna happen? You know? And
Like
so
being at school.
I don't personally like that. If you're ever in that situation though, I have a friend who left a meeting because they called on people and they thought they were gonna get called on. You can always say, like, I'm just listening today. And then you just say, like, I'm David, I'm an alcoholic, I'm just listening. And then they'll move on. So
Well,
you don't have to share ever.
okay, love that. Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. I feel like you've dropped so many nuggets on, honestly, a lot of really good information for anyone that's struggling or anyone that just wants to like be the best version of themselves. And thank you for sharing your tips and tricks and a little bit about yourself with our audience today.
Seriously,
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have had David on because he is such a special person to me. I'm a Taurus, so I don't let a lot of people in, and this motherfucker is here to stay. So
Yes,
here with
ma'am.
the figs, baby.
Yes. And thank you
So
guys for having me on. And like, I'm just so proud of everything that you guys are doing and like everything that you guys are accomplishing in your life. Like Kaylee with your fitness and Grace with like your work and your life and like the
Moving to
changes.
Arkansas. No one knows how to
Oh,
congratulate me.
you haven't announced it to the pod
I
yet.
haven't.
I'm
You guys
bleeping
Oh.
that out.
I'm-
I'm gonna say I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay,
bleep
okay.
that
I know
out.
that's why I was kind of filtering what I was
Oh,
saying. 'cause
okay,
I was
okay,
like,
okay.
yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
got you,
bleep it
girl.
out, and then they're not
If
gonna
anyone
know
knows
what
how
we're
to keep
talking
a
about.
secret with evasiveness,
Uh,
no, no, but yeah, just like everything that you guys are accomplishing in like the podcast and like, and you guys are such special people as well, and like I couldn't imagine any stronger people in my life than you guys. And just to let the audience knows, Kaylee and Grace don't get invited to my friend's birthday dinner; they get invited to the family one for a reason. So
It is
I love
honestly
you
the truest honor. So, thank you.
Love
And
you,
sorry to the rest of
and-
your friends that thought they were cool. You guys are all right.
guys.
Love you.
My family knows you guys. Like you guys are like sisters at this point.
They were in
So,
our book club. I mean,
yeah.
it was a thing.
We're
Yep, she
starting
was
it
in it.
again eventually.
Are you?
When I move, I mean, I think there will be a time in the upcoming future for us to revisit it.
I love
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
And then, side note, I am going to list all the resources in the show notes because that is our biggest challenge is listing, but I've got it, guys. So
Kaylee
please go
actually wrote it down, you guys. She was taking notes throughout this episode. We've made it a personal goal for ourselves to do this for you. We've heard the feedback. We're getting better. So thank you, Kaylee, for taking it on.
Yeah. And
Wow.
thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Dave, for being here. And we will see y'all Wednesday.
See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, y'all.